look like. So this is about me. So basically, I was a founder of SPE University of Indonesia student chapter back to 1996. And then I have a PhD degree in chemical engineering. And then I have around 20 years experiences in oil and gas industry. And then I received, multiple international awards. Around 2015, I received a SPE Regional Project Facilities and Construction Award in Abu Dhabi across Middle East and North Africa. And then around 2014, earlier, I received a Best Paper Award for the Gas Processors Associations a conference in Texas in US. And then I also received 2011 a Middle East SPE Project and Facilities Challenges in Doha of Qatar. So since 2012, I work for Saudi Aramco and based in Dhahran. And then currently I serve a SPE International Committee. I volunteer for many activities across SPE. And then currently I'm leading the SPE International Journal of Petroleum Technology. And then also I lead as a member of the Distinguished Lecture Committee for a 2020 up to 2023. So yeah, it's quite an honor to be here with all of you. So the outline that I would like to share with you basically is I try my best to deliver these presentations unique compared with compared with previous presenter. So I would like to build a communication between myself and you as participants. So basically, I will start with the motivations. I will bring these presentations interesting. I will share to you the games and role of you today, and then what is the background and objective of my presentations, and then I will also share with all of you about the current world map, oil and gas production and consumptions, mainly on the oil side, and then the history of the oil supply and demand. This subject is quite very important because we need to understand how the oil price mechanism is, and then what kind of opportunity that we can grab, especially for you as a student. And then I will summarize all of my presentation, within a very quick notes. And then in the last presentations, I would like to encourage all of you to participate on the team project. So let us start. So this is the role of my presentation today, and then I would like to have your participations. First, basically, if we look back to the history of the athletics, right? So there is a respected athlete. His name is Usain Bolt. He is Jamaican. He born in 1986, and then he is very incredible. He is winning a lot of medal, a lot of gold, and then breaking the record of the 100 meters running. And then the world 100 meters record that he achieved is 9.58 seconds. It's so fast. And then his achievement is still long lasting until today, right? Still long lasting until today. And then it's very difficult for other athletes to beat him. So he's really well respected. He is a champion. And then what kind of things that we can learn from him, right? So Usain Bolt said that I do what I do because I'm good and I enjoy it. So you can feel that whatever the future will be, you need to be optimistic. You need to enjoy. You need to find your passion. So this is the things where the talents are all about. So imagine now I'm presenting this presentation to all of you, and then imagine you are a future of the Usain Bolt. So bear in mind that the future is there. It depends on you. Depend on how you can accelerate your skill, how you can explore your talent and your passion. So whatever future will be, you will be always there. Next. So basically, what is the secret of the Usain Bolt success, right? So first of all, you need to work hard. Be prepared to make sacrifice. And then, of course, the biggest motivator after all is the fear of losing. And it is important for all of us, it's not only you, but for all us to have a role model or mentors. So to learn to be, a success, sometimes you need to start from the basic ground level. So learn to be street smart. And then you need to be, the right people around you. So to have a good friend, the positive colleague is very important for your future success. And then the most important things also is enjoy whatever you do. And then no matter how good you are, there will be a lot of room for improvement. So this is the things where we can learn from the Usain Bolt success. Remember, your future is in your hands. So the background of and the objective of my presentation this morning is first enhancing, the participant knowledge about the impact of the global lockdown, the global pandemic last time, which is impacting our oil and gas industry. Second things, I would like to introducing to all of you the new normal, we say, the new work environment after COVID pandemic, and enhancing the participant knowledge about So this is the fact. I would like to share with you a very basic stuff, which is very important to understand to all of us, right? So what is the crude oil? What is the oil all about? So if you see from these presentations, 1 barrel of oil contain of at least around 36% of the fuel oil. Okay, so 1 barrel of oil can produce around 36% of this volume, around 42 gallon of petrol, fuel oil. The next majority of this crude oil is, we can enjoy from the distillation from refinery around 26% of diesel. And then the rest is 22% is a wax, lubrication, lubricant, polishes. And then 5% is marine fuel. And then around 4.7, 4.8 is around for the jet fuel, the fuel for the airplane. And then the rest is 4.1% is for the petrochemical feedstock. So as you can see from this, a cartoon, that 1 barrel of crude oil is really, really matter for all of us. So it's not only for the people, but for the industry, for the economy, for the manufacturer, for the for our daily day-to-day activities. So remember, the crude oil is very important for our life. So if you can take a look little bit about the refinery process, the distillation product itself. So basically a lot of stuff can be produced from the feed of the crude oil, right? So the crude oil can be processed, and then we can enjoy naphtha, and then lubricating oils, and then phenol, and so on and so on. So a lot of product that can be generated by the crude oil. So based on this understanding, therefore, we believe that at the moment, if we take a look or take step little bit, is there any other replacement of the full crude oil? So as an energy, maybe we have a renewable energy. Maybe there is another, outside of the fossil fuel sources. But in terms of other product, like for example, airplane is really depend on the jet fuel, right? So far there is no renewable energy that can replace the fuel for the airplane. And the petrol still dominated. Of course, we have seen together, a lot of electricity replacing the petrol, fuel, gas. But in reality, the sources of the renewable energy itself is really scarcity. It's not every country they have a renewable energy sources. And then, for example, 23% of the crude oil product is produced for the wax, lubrication, policies, and so on. So far there is no replacement, particularly on that product, and including the asphalt, right? Asphalt is really depend on the crude oil product. And then lastly, the diesel itself, the diesel oil, there is some replacement from the palm oil and so on. But in reality, at the moment, we still receive the marine fuel, diesel oil, which is a product from the crude oil itself. So you can see from this page that 1 barrel of oil is really impacting to the human life. Okay, this is the things where I would like to share with you the global news so far. So just in July, a couple of weeks ago, even yesterday, the crude oil price are still around $40 per barrel. That was for the WTI West Texas Index, and then around 43 US dollar per barrel for the Brent crude oil price. So basically, there is a good news, a positive news, where some of the industry in China and India, they start to gearing up. So of course, we still, under the pandemic, we have seen that we still try to make ourselves as healthy as possible by wearing a mask, making a social distance, physical distance, and so on. But in some case, we have seen very clear that the industry start to move again. That's why there is a demand increase for about 5 million barrel per day. So as a global news last week, that OPEC and Russia tried to make some agreement to may ease oil production cuts. They did a lot of cuts, almost 7 million barrel per day, but now they start to increasing. And then of course, there is a projections up to early next year that the demand of the crude oil will start to be increased. So this is a good sign. And then this is the table that I would like to share to all of you, the global major oil and gas project. So as you have heard around almost 3 weeks ago, ADNOC start to sell 49% of their gas pipeline to investor. So look like some of the Middle East country, the biggest oil producer, they start to diversify their economy. It's not really depend on the oil and gas as a major income for the country. So you have heard also Saudi Aramco started to be in the market. They become an IPO company since last year. So there is a new trend of the oil and gas industry where they try to diversify their income. And then we also have heard that BP selling their petrochemical, business to INEOS for about $5 billion US around end of June. And then there's a lot of things which is been announced for a couple days ago. So basically, there is something going on. There is a positive news, and then there's a lot of challenges that we can see together within our oil and gas industry. Next, if we take a step little bit about the what is the proved oil reserve around the world. So basically, the biggest reserve of the oil, the world map oil reserve from this cartoon, as you can see, is dominated by Venezuela, and then number 2 is the biggest reserve of the oil is Saudi Arabia, and then the third is Canada, and then of course the fourth, as you can see from this, is dominated by the Middle East part of the country. So if you count everything like Saudi Arabia plus Kuwait, and then plus the UAE, Iran, and then Iraq, Libya. So most of the oil reserve are sitting in the Middle East. And then of course, this is just to give you a good indications about the oil and gas production indicator from last year. As you can see over here, so basically the the map showing the green increasing in terms of the productivity index for the oil or for the gas, while the red arrow putting down is showing some of the oil and gas which is declining or not really aggressive enough. So as you can see over here, the North America, the purple color in your left side, the productivity index for the past 2019 for the oil is increased very massive, around 91%, and then for the gas is increasing for about 103%. So this is the map that I would like to share with you, where basically is showing the how the production indicator are around the world. And then if you can see over here in the Middle East, it's not much. The productivity index for the oil is down, is declined for about 330%, while the productivity index for the gas is increasing around 124%. So dominated by Qatar, Saudi Arabia. They're one of the biggest gas producer across the Middle East. So the productive index for the gas is quite increased for the last year. So this is the things where I would like to share with you is about the to whom, right? So how the who is the oil producer, who is the exporter, who is the importer. So basically, who sells the crude oil to whom? In your left side is explaining the country like Saudi Arabia, Russia, West Africa, Iraq, other Middle East, Canada, UAE, Kuwait, and US. And then in your right side is explaining some of the country, which is Europe, China, US, and so on. So basically in your left side is the country which is producing oil and exporting oil. And then the right side is the country which is importing the oil. So if you take a look about Saudi Arabia, so basically Saudi Arabia producing almost 42 million ton in a year. This data came from BP in June 2019. So basically, the export of the crude oil from Saudi Arabia goes to Europe, goes to China, US, and also the rest of Asia, including Indonesia. So basically, Saudi Arabia producing a lot of their oil to China, and then China is a big country, the biggest populations, on earth. They are really a hungry country in terms of the fossil oil. And then if you take a look about the Russia, most of their crude they export to Europe, and then some of their part also goes to China. So this is just to give you an emphasize that, in terms of the crude oil exporter and then crude oil country importer, they are linked each other. And of course, for the producer itself, it is very important to engage very close with their buyer or with their customer. So this is the explanation about the crude oil importer and exporter. So this slide is about the oil price mechanism, right? So in simple words, the crude oil price is depend on the supply and the demand. In this graph, the x-axis explaining, how the movement on the especially on the quantification of the price, and then in y-axis you can see the oil price itself. So the blue graph explaining the supply, and then the red graph, the red line explaining the demand. So whenever the demand is movement, right, either stagnant or lowering, it also depend on the supply. The current situation for the past 6 months, basically the supply is a lot, is oversupply. Because why? The reason behind of it is because United States producing, the oil which is improving from 2012 up to today, basically is almost 100% because of the shale oil success and because of the fracturing technology. So if the supply is increased, and then the demand is low or constant, then of course the price will be low. And then vice versa, if the supply is constant and then the demand is increased, then what will happen is the price can be increased. So this is the graph which is explaining what is the oil price mechanism. So a lot of factors which is determining or impacting the oil price. One is the market, and then the second thing is supply, demand, and then OPEC and non-OPEC, the geopolitics, the inventory, the reserve, and then of course another factor is like spare capacity, new investment, currency, new technology, weather, right? If there is some pandemic or not. So the pandemic is happened for the past 6 months, and then for the first time the crude oil are really impacting, from the past 80, 70 years of the oil industry. So the oil price was crashed around April 2021, right? So it's become negative for the West Texas index. So basically what happened is because of two things. First is because the oversupply from the crude oil company, a producing company, E&P company from the shale. And then number two is because the demand itself is very low, and then suddenly the inventory, the stock is overflow. So this is the situation where the market react negatively, and then the oil price are negatively impact by this situation. So bear in mind that the market itself for this crude oil, business is a futures market, right? So you pay now for something that you will deliver next within 2 months or 1 month. So it's futures market. So within the market itself, there is hedgers and then there is a speculant, right? So the oil price is quite very sensitive, depend on this a win-win agreement between the buyer and the seller. So the pre-COVID around December, there was a geopolitical happen in the Middle East, and then there is no agreement between Saudi Arabia and also Russia, and then there's an oversupply, and then during the pandemic itself, there's a crisis in a in the around February March, and then the post-economic because of this pandemic, there is an economic slowdown. There is a lot of social effect. The price of the crude oil is become a decline because there is no activity on the demand. The demand is dropped for almost 17 to 20 million barrel oil per day. So the oil price is collapsed. And then of course what happened, as we can see together last time, all of the OPEC and non-OPEC members agreed to cut their production profile. So this is what happened as we can see for the past 6 months. So if we look back again on the life cycle, on the cycle of the long history of the oil price, basically this is not the first time, right? So the crude oil price, the low oil price is not the first time. And then within the cycle, 100 years of the crude oil price, basically there is a lot of happens, in the ground. So oversupply, and then glut, and then there is a geopolitical war and so on, which is dictate the crude oil price. And then in 1980, there was a Iran-Iraq war, right, which is shooting up the crude oil price up to more than $100 per barrel, and then go down again around 1990, 1993, where of course there is an invasion of the invasion of Iraq to Kuwait, and then there is another situation where the a lot of economic growth from Asia, from China, which is the demand is so high, and then the supply is quite stagnant, and then the crude oil price reached another $100 per barrel. That was around 2011 actually. Then the crude oil price down again, in 2016, and then as we can see nowadays, the crude oil price is around $40 per barrel. So basically, what happened, if we look to the big major country who produce oil, which is Saudi Arabia, Russia, and also United States. As you can see on this graph, basically the crude production from Saudi Arabia is quite stagnant, right? It's around 9 or almost 10 million barrel per day, because Saudi Arabia is really tied with the OPEC commitment. And then if we take a look on Russia itself in the red line, Russia, there is an increasing very massive since 2002 from let's say 9 million barrel per day up to around 11 million barrel per day. While amazingly, the United States, the North America, they produce the oil quite sharp from 2010, 2012 up to today, which is increasing massively from 6 million barrel oil per day up to more than 11, 12 million barrel per day. That was because of the shale oil revolution, the fracturing technology revolution. But during the pandemic, where the crude oil price is declined up to a $40 per barrel, then a lot of shale oil company are become bankrupt. They stop their activities because it's not economic for them to run their operation. So this is just to give all of you emphasize that the crude oil price, the crude oil industry is a cycle. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. It's depend on the market, depend on the geopolitics, and so on and so on. So this is to make you understand that predicting crude oil price is not easy at all. And then the oil industry is always capable to meet the demand, to meet the challenges. So the fact in the past, the history show that we still need oil, and then the population, people still need a product of the oil. and then there will be a good demand again very soon whenever the pre-COVID, whenever COVID-19 pandemic is under control. So this is the information that I would like to share with you. So let us take a look a little bit about the economy, right? So the global challenge this time is different, as I shared to you earlier, that in March, April, the crude oil price is sharply declined up to negative price for about 2 days only. So this is just to give you an emphasize that all of the market is down, decline. It's not many activities because the economy is slowed down. So the market in Dow Jones, in US, in Europe, everywhere is little bit slowed down, except for China. China is little bit strong, and then they are sustaining, maintaining their market activities. So this is the presentation that I would like to share. Basically, we need to know the supply and demand. So what happened for the past 6 months, the demand of the oil are dropped around 20-30 million barrels per day. And then, of course, for the past 2 years, basically, the difference between supply and demand is not really much, it's around almost 2 or 3 million barrels per day only. So, but for the past, 6 months, the demand itself is down, and then the gaps between the supply and demand is come very big. So this is just to give you an emphasize that at the moment, we face a very difficult situations, but we believe that there's a sign of the industry activities whenever the people start to have, a mobility again, whenever people start to have some business again, interaction with others again, then the demand will pick up. So this is just to give you an emphasis about what is the production and consumption balance so far. And then this is just to give you an understanding about the oil demand, basically, both gasoline, diesel, fuel jet, LPG, and other products. So in general, the demand of the oil product is declined, and of course this is quite very challenging for the past 6 months. And then this is the graph that quite very important to be shared to you. Basically, it's explaining the break-even price of the crude oil, which is dictate the project. So basically, if you look to your left side, the onshore Middle East, on the top, the onshore Middle East, the break-even price of the crude oil over there is around $20-25 per barrel of the crude. So that's why when we have around $40 per barrel of crude right now, so the Middle East a project or Middle East operation is still on the go. They don't have any much impact, but of course the country income from the crude is quite impacting, basically, because why? Because the demand is down. So if you look back again, what happened in Russia, the break-even price in Russia is around $50 per barrel. And then for the deep water, for example, in Gulf of Mexico, in China, in some of other countries like in Australia or in Norway, so deep water oil break-even oil price is around $52 per barrel. So underneath of your right side, this is a break-even price of the new wells in a shale oil operation in the United States. So for the Permian Basin project, for the Bakken, for the other non-shale project within the United States, basically the break-even price are around 48 to around $55 per barrel. That's why it's explained if the oil price right now is around $40 per barrel, then this a shale oil operation is not survive. So that's explained why some of this company is become bankrupt. And the last time, as you can see, or you have heard that Chesapeake in the United States, they are become bankrupt. And then more than 250 oil and gas company, which is operated in the shale oil operation in the United States, is become bankrupt. So it's quite very challenging right now for some of the oil company. And then if we take a look little bit, what is the cost of the producing crude oil per barrel in some of the country? So in Kuwait, so they are one of Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, UAE, Iran. They are a country which is in the Middle East, which is having very low cost in terms of the producing crude oil per barrel. And then a country like Russia, Venezuela, Brazil, Canada, USA, they are quite very expensive. They expect to have around 40 or more than 50 US dollar per barrel. So what happened in Brazil is basically they have a lot of operation in offshore, in deep water. That's why the cost of producing of oil in that country is very expensive. The same like in Canada, the sources of their oil is coming from oil sand, and then the processing is quite very expensive. The reserve is there, it's very easy to be explored, but the processing is very expensive. Again, this is just to give you an emphasize about the how the relationship between the price of the oil and then with the activities of the future. So this is the graph which is explaining the rig count and then the relationship with the oil price. So basically, because of this pandemic, a lot of rig activities around the world, not only in the US but also around the world, is declined. So in US we can see that the very drastic, sharp decline of the rig activities because of the oil price is low, and then a lot of oil shale they stop their operation. Next, so for the past 6 months, what happened is a lot of oil and gas company, the E&P company, they are reducing the spending, both capex and opex. They are rescheduling the project. They resize the organization. Some of our colleagues is not lucky because they've been laid off. BP to cut a lot of employees, ExxonMobil, Schlumberger, Halliburton. So a lot of things happen to survive, within this climate, situation. So a lot of things been happen in 2020. Capex cut by oil and gas company is a lot. Is more than 30 billion US dollar. And then another things that we have seen so far, like the situation in ADNOC in Abu Dhabi, they sell 49% stake in their pipeline. A lot of company try to divest their assets, and then some of the company is not lucky, they declare a bankruptcy. So this is the things where it's happened nowadays. And then of course, in terms of the perspective of the oil producer, they try to cut their production to a balance with the demand. And then one of the idea is to shut in the wells, right? So production shut in is one of the solution. And then all of the oil producing country, they agreed to do that, because otherwise the oil price will become decline and decline. But we need to know that production shut in is not easy at all. So a lot of technical and logistical challenges, because restarting is quite complex. Sometimes every well they don't have any similarity of the productivity index, a lot of formation damage, a lot of skin problems, and so on and so on. Therefore, production shut in sometimes is not easy. And then there is another reason why production shut in is not easy, because of the financial considerations, right? Okay, nowadays that the oil price is down, I cannot shut in my wells because the loss will be more bigger and deeper. That's why it's okay to find out loss, but at least I still maintain the wells. So there is another financial consideration that some of the operating company are thinking of. The other third reason about why production shut in is not easy is because of the regulatory or contractual conditions. So this is the thing where bottleneck the decision on the shut in of the wells. And then of course the fourth reason is political consideration. Therefore, to make the balance, reducing the production of the oil to be in the close to the demand is not easy. But there is a majority of the oil producing country agreed to cut their production, and then we can see already, right? So where the cut between the OPEC and non-OPEC, or OPEC plus with Russia, is almost 7 million barrel of crude last time. So that's why the crude oil price is close to a balance of the equilibrium around 40 US dollar per barrel. So let me share with you the uncertainty. So a lot of analysts say that, like a Bank of America, Citi, IHS, Morgan Stanley predicted something for the future. So in the short term, from now until at least end of the year, or maybe until next year, the future demand is quite uncertain. And then we predicted that the oil price will be around 30 to 40 US dollar per barrel. And then not much because the demand is driving by the people, by the industry. So we hope that once the pandemic become under control, once the vaccine been found, and then all of the industry people start to have some activities again, therefore we expect that the demand will ramp up, and then we will see more, a win-win situation for the oil price. So what we afraid, basically, some of the analysts say that, is there any chance for the oil to hit 100 US dollar per barrel again in the short term or medium term? Well, to be honest with you, the possibility is there. Why? Because there is no much oil and gas largest discovery that been found for the past 10 years, right? So in Indonesia, for example, Repsol found a KBD, in the South Sumatra. But if we take a look, the largest, the commercial discovery is not many, West Africa, there in the offshore side, and then Guyana in the eastern in the offshore Egypt, in also in the offshore deep water offshore Brazil. So there is not much, a largest discovery but oil and gas which is found so far. So imagine if the demand is increased and then the supply is not ready, we will see that maybe the crude oil price will reach around 100 US dollar per barrel again. But maybe not, because why? Because so far the shale oil from United States is really able to ramp up. They are really organic. Their business model is very unique, and then the shale oil can balance the supply. So this is what the reality most likely will be. So to reach 100 US dollar per barrel, maybe it's not, because of the shale activities. They are really organic. They can produce oil very quick, and then once the supply is increased, and then the oil price will decline again. So this is the situation where maybe yes, maybe not, but highly likely not, because of the shale oil revolution. Next, what will happen within 2 or 5 years ahead? Of course, we always busy with the geopolitics, right? There will be a new election of the presidential in United States, and then of course there is a lot of tension in China, Hong Kong, and Asia. There is another tension in the Middle East, like Lebanon, Libya, Iran, and across the Middle East. So geopolitics fears will be dominated to oil price, like or dislike. So the global global problem basically needs a global solution. And then the Middle East, China, North Korea, Russia, stability, US election, US-China rivalry. So this is the things where we will see a lot of geopolitics happen in the near future, which is also maybe dictating the oil price. Next, this is the stuff which is quite very important to be shared with you. So basically, what is the potential winners and what is the potential losers last time during this pandemic? As you can see so far, the tourism, is decline. It's not that, but it's decline. Aviation, maritime is decline. Automotive is decline. Construction, real estate activity is decline. And then financial services is decline. Education is, not much really happen. People is moving from physical class to the more online classes. So the future of economy, will be, e-commerce, ICT, agriculture, medical. But as you can see over here, oil and gas, I put a row because there is an opportunity for oil and gas to become a potential winners in the future once the people activities, once the industry ramp up again. So I'm very confident that oil and gas will be there very soon, as a future opportunity for all of us. And then in summary, what I can say for you, if I did this research for the past 4 months. So I applied the SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunity, and also threat, which is applied to our oil and gas industry. So if we take a look on the strength of the oil or gas, basically the oil is really a lifeblood of the industry. It's an important source of the energy, right? And that is providing fuel, heating, transportation, chemical product for the people, for our improving our life, wealth, economy development. And bear in mind that a oil gas industry are benefiting for the human development index. So it's become a country income generation. And then if we take a look for the weakness, so the weakness of the oil and gas, basically, of course, we know that it's non-renewable, supply demand risk, price risk, geopolitical risk is always there. And then for the outside, what kind of opportunity that oil and gas industry have, basically, there is so much planning currently going on. Our oil and gas industry is one of the best industry, which is really concerned about the sustainability, about health, safety, environment. So energy mix, energy transition is there right now. We are also improving the value chain of our product, and then we are improving, the net zero carbon, which is, we are trying to reduce a lot of environmental impact within the activities itself. And then if we take a look on the threat that might happen, basically is, all right, maybe people life, style is changed, people perception is changed, peak demand, right? So because the oil supply is also depending on how the demand react. And then if there is a slow economy also will dictate the oil and gas industry. And then like a new source, which is replacing the oil and gas also might possible, geopolitics. And one of the things which is like a threat for the oil and gas is like a pandemic. Once the pandemic like COVID-19 happened, and then the oil and gas industry, the supply is become impacting. So the next question, which is one of the inclusion for our topics today is what will become a new normal, right? So what is the new normal will be? So the way I see basically is there will be more and more innovations. Innovation is the key. So innovation is the key for the future of the oil and gas, of our energy industry. And then the innovation start with the IR 4.0, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, visualization, digitalizations. And then the innovation also will be trending on the energy mix and transition, health, safety, environment, lean process. So a lot of new business process will be introduced, blockchain, stock and inventory also quite very important. The other new normal that will be seen by all of us basically is mastering the uncertainty. So we are learning together that the pandemic is quite dangerous. It's quite really challenging for our industry, for our economy. That's why mastering uncertainty is very important. Risk management concept will be applied everywhere. It's not only for the limitation on health, safety, environment, but risk management will be applied in the business process. The new skill is very important. So we need to add, ourselves to be, to master about the digitalization, coding, new IT skill, new business model, and so on. And then the new normal also will be dictated by the people behavior. So like a new government policy, how they are, looking this as an opportunity, and a new lifestyle, right? and then health, safety, environmental awareness will be more increased, and then our economy, the future economy, the way I see so far, still be depend on carbon-based economy, but maybe there is some mix with the non-carbon-based economy, and then there will be some, trending on the renewable energy, and then transportation and mobility. So I believe the way I see so far, within the short term, let's say 10 years ahead, or 20 or 30, 40 years ahead, we still depend on the oil and gas, but there is a new technology which is based on the renewables, based on a new source of energy. But bear in mind that we also need to improve the value chain of the product, right? Because the 1 barrel of the oil also a good a feed for the petrochemical or basic chemical industry. So this is the things where I see the future will be. So I believe that there will be a hope. The question will be, are we ready? So that was my last presentation, and then this is the project that I would like to share with you as my promise before. So basically, this is not only one-way interactions. I would like to share with you, if you can participate and then you can become a Usain Bolt, right? So Usain Bolt say that I don't think there is a limit. So you need to explore yourself. You need to find what is your passion, what is your talent, what is your future will be. So I encourage you to participate on this challenge, working as a team within the project and apply. I want to become a Usain Bolt someday, and I want to find out my passion, and I want to contribute for the future of our oil and gas or energy industry. And then this is the project that I would like to challenge all of you. So select your teams and write your team opinion. So one team consists of 3 persons. Select a team below, and then write down your team opinion, not more than 300 words. The theme is about hydrogen fuel prospect after COVID-19 pandemic. And then the second subject will be EOR, Enhanced Oil Recovery Project Prospect after COVID-19 pandemic. This EOR is quite very important for the future of Indonesia, because Indonesia is quite facing a lot of challenge to secure the energy demand. Of course, because Indonesia currently importing around almost maybe 900,000 barrel oil per day. So it's quite very challenging that to meet the fuel or oil industry demand within the country. So please be flexible, select which one that do you think fit with your teams. And then the last thing is about the blockchain prospect after COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the stuff that I would like to challenge all of you, and then you can participate for this competition. The first, the second, and the third winner will receive a special recognition. And then please submit your opinion to SPE University of Indonesia student chapter at that email address, not later by July 21, 2020. So by this, I conclude my presentations. Thank you so much for all of you, your participation, and I'm looking forward if you have some question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian and Koda, for sharing your knowledge with us and giving such informative and interesting presentation. For all participants, it's such an amazing opportunity to join the competition. Don't forget to join this event. To sum up the whole presentation, we've already learned about the condition of oil and gas industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are some factors that make the production shut-in isn't easy, such as financial consideration, political consideration, regulatory and contractual condition, and also technical and logistical factors. So, we have to adapt to the new normal condition, which lead us to make a new innovation like renewable energy and also take a look on every opportunities. Innovation is the key to face the new normal, and we have to be mastered on every uncertainty. Now, we would like to open the Q&A session. For anyone who would like to ask anything to Dr. Ardian and Koda, you may write it on the chat box. Don't forget to mention your name and institution before asking the question. So we are going to answer the first question. The first question is from Raihan from University of Indonesia. So the question is, he would like to ask about the big data analytics in the upstream business. Currently, many oil and gas, also OFS companies, are starting to utilize big data analytics for technical predictions and also decision making within the industry with a great advantage of reducing costs in many sectors. A good example of it is to minimize the risk of encountering a dry well, reduction of non-productive time in a drilling operation, also for subsurface data management, to name a few. His point is that he like to know about Mr. Ardian Enkoda's opinions on big data analytics and digital transformation within the oil and gas industry from a field operator company perspective. Dr. Ardian Enkoda, you can answer the question right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angelina, for passing to me the question from our colleague. So it's very good a question, by the way. So basically, the future will be going digital. The future will be IR 4.0. So we are talking about the artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, IoT, Internet of Things, digitalization, and so on and so on. So in terms of the perspective of the operating company, right? For the exploration and production company, basically it will come with a cost, right? So first of all, we identify that a lot of benefit can be introducing by the big data, by analytical approach in improving our efficiency, in improving finding a new oil and gas reserve, improving our facility, improving our operation, and so on and so on. So the organization, the culture need to support. The leadership also very important. Number two is infrastructure, right? So do we have, for me, I can see very clear a lot of benefit from the big data analytical approach from the technology perspective, either from the drilling, seismic, processing, and so on and so on. So the benefit is there. But of course, we need to be prepared in terms of the infrastructure, the fiber optic, the Internet of Things, the connection, the server, the processing, and so on and so on and so forth. So the infrastructure is also need to be ready. And number three, do we have a tools and skill set? So the problem of this is because we know that the big data itself is coming as a new approach to the oil and gas. It's not coming from the oil and gas actually. If you look back to the big data history, the success is coming from the ICT company, right? So we need to have a proper tools and skill set. So at the moment we still lack of that skill set. So I believe that that was the area where the student or the new fresh graduate can participate and then can help us, the operating company, to introduce and to demonstrate that the big data, the Internet of Things, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence can give a benefit. So at the moment, it's not only oil and gas company. We also have a joint industrial project between the operator and the oil field services. Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker, Weatherford, GE. They are the big oil field services company, and then a lot of joint industrial project which is developed undergoes right now. And then I believe that it will come very soon, and then we need to be ready to master this new technology. So the future is bright, the future is there, and then I do hope that this big data will be implemented everywhere across the business line. So yeah, I'm very excited for this technology, And then I'm looking forward for you, for all of you, for your contribution for this big data analytics and so on and so forth. So yeah, we are so excited for this. But again, the infrastructure need to be ready, the leadership need to be ready, and then the commitment, the tools, and the skill set need to be there before we deploy this technology. But the trend is there. The trend is going to the big data, artificial intelligence, and so on and so on. So that will be a new trend for all of us. Thank you.
And thank you for your clear explanation, Mr. Ardian and Koda. So now we are going to move on to the second question from Kevin Wu from Institute Technology Bandung. The question is, what will be your words to your children when they are willing to pursue career in oil and gas industry? Would you recommend it? And also, what is your point on someone after 20 years served as petroleum engineer and then got fired due to the oil price and sea level decision, anticipating this might happen to them one day? What about your opinion?
Very good questions, Kevin. This is very good question actually. It's classical questions. It's been addressed. It's not only to me, but also to our SPE president, Shena Nunan. It's been also addressed to our previous president, Shami, and everywhere. It's a very good question actually. We have seen very clear. Okay, this is the fact. The fact is the intake of the petroleum engineering in United States are sharply declined. Yeah, it's quite very common because the job is very difficult right now. Number two, if the oil and gas industry will jump back, will bounce back to normal again, when, right? So it means that is there any future for petroleum engineering? So of course, if I have a child which is would like to pursue to petroleum engineering as his or her future, I will not harm to stop him or her, because the most important thing is not about the petroleum engineering itself. It's about the patience. It's about something that you believe that yourself are capable to contribute with or without any job opportunity. And bear in mind that either petroleum engineering, chemical engineering, there is a lot of things that you already learn, in your college, right? So if, for example, if the job is really limited, can you switch? Can you be flexible? Because in our engineering degree, we learn it's not only technical matters, right? We learn about the management. We learn about the how to solve the problem. We learn about the analytical methodology to solve the problem. That's the basic things that we can apply for everywhere, for any company, right? So don't be hesitate that either petroleum engineering or not petroleum engineering, it will limit your passion, your talent. So for me, I'm pretty sure that I will support whatever decision will be, because petroleum engineering is one of the big engineering umbrella. Either mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, petroleum engineering we come as an engineering applied science, right? So don't limit yourself. I knew that the demand is not there right now. Maybe the demand is quite also very tough within 1 to 2 years ahead. But the most important thing is to make ourselves ready, to make ourselves has a new skill set to apply very soon, either at the oil and gas company or another company. So my best advice is find your passion, find out your success definition is far than important. So that was my best advice for the young future talent in our industry. So don't be hesitate, pursue your dream, learn hard, work hard, and then because either you will work in oil and gas industry or other industry, it will be the same. Your what you already learned in the past will be applied very soon. That's number one. Number two, what is the future about, right? So Kevin is really concerned about my best advice for this oil and gas business. So it's a cycle business basically. So oil and gas industry is a commodity type of industry. But I do believe that the commodity is not really a proper word. The proper word is energy. So oil and gas is a energy industry. So therefore, the best way to bring a lot of benefit from the oil and gas is to consider the social impact, the environmental impact, the long-term impact, and the sustainability. Therefore, securing the long chain, securing the best strategy to fulfill the demand is far than important, because oil and gas industry is proven already for the past 100 years contributing to the economy. Each country, they are benefiting from the America, from Brazil, from North America, from Europe, from everywhere. We still depend on this oil and gas industry. We still depend on the energy sources itself. So we need to think pragmatic, to take a look, this industry as a whole, important part of the economy. And then not only that, in the same time, we need to consider the social impact, the environmental impact. Therefore, the industry itself will be sustained longer than the period. But of course, we have seen a trending so far, like Total, Equinor, Shell, BP. They are trying to transform to become, a net zero, a carbon, company. They're going to renewables, right, within 20, 30 years. And then, of course, I respect, the company vision on it. And then the most important thing is not about the schedule, not about the timeline, but how we can guarantee ourselves as oil and gas industry to make sure that our operation always meet, a safety, health, and environmental friendly, and reducing, the carbon footprint in the same time. So I think it's very good question, Kevin. Well done. I wish all the best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian and Koda, for giving us such a good advices and also a good answer. And next, we are going to answer the question from Randy from SPE UISC. As you said before, the oil price is very unpredictable, depend on geopolitics, economic, and etc. And the data from WTI said on 23rd April, the oil prices went down into minus $37 per barrel. So simply, we can assume that this current generation cannot rely anymore on this industry. His question is, how big changes the renewable energy will totally replace the oil energy? And also, if it's happened, can you predict what kind of energy that will replace it?
Okay, thank you so much for the questions. I do appreciate, but there is some miscommunication. There is some misperceptions to understand the phenomena where the oil price is negative around April, 2021, and then we cannot, justify that the oil itself has been gone. We cannot justify that the future is gone. The future is disappear for oil and gas industry. That was not really correct, basically, because what happened in April 20 and 21, April 20 and 21st, the demand is oversupply. The pandemic is the one which is hit, the economy. The pandemic is the one who are making the industry slow down, making people and other people do not have any mobility, right? So people tend to be at home, work from home, study from home. So there is no activities. So that's the reason, because there is no, enough inventory, enough stock, and so on and so on. Then the oil prices drop, become negative. But it doesn't mean that the oil demand will be gone. No, that was not really correct. Why? Because let us see where we are now, right? That was very logic, right? Where we are now is we still depend on this oil and gas industry. Tell me, is there any replacement? on the fuel jet for airplane. No, there is no one fuel jet airplane can be run with the battery. No, the fuel jet still very important for the airplane. Let us take a look again. For example, our industry nowadays. Our industry nowadays around the world still depend on coal, still depend on the gas, still depend on the diesel, and so on and so on. At the moment, as we speak, there is no other replacement globally to replace oil and gas for our industry. Of course, there is other option, right? Like renewable. And then the other things that I would like to share with you, the clothes that we wear now is a chemical product, is a petrochemical product. Is there any other replacement right now? Your mobile phone is from plastic. Our everything, still dominated by the basic, chemicals and petrochemicals. So of course we need to be pragmatic. I appreciate that comment where maybe there is no future of the oil and gas, which is I'm not in agreement at all. We still depend on this type of energy because there is no exactly precisely replacement of this crude oil itself. And bear in mind that renewable is very good. We from the oil and gas industry believe that renewable energy is very important as a part of energy mix, as a part of energy transition. As you can see, right? BP, Total, Equinor, Shell, right? So some of the oil company based in Europe, they transition themselves to become, net zero carbon company within 30 or 50 years. Not now, because we still need it, right? So like marine, like our ship, is there any other, available energy sources for marine? No, that's still based on the diesel and marine fuel, right? So we need to be pragmatic, to see what is the phenomena that we can interpret. Number two is about the renewable energy future. I do agree that renewable energy is very important in the equation of the energy demand. I believe that all of us from the industry is respecting, the renewable. We believe they are not a competitor at all. And I believe energy, renewable energy is very important for some of the country. And of course, there is some challenge, right? So the renewable energy is not every country, it's not every place. There is a scarcity, there is a demographic supply problems too. But I think this is our homework. So a lot of effort have been done from the oil and gas industry to engage more with the renewable sources. And then we are really care about environment. And then we try to work together to find out the best formula of this energy transition. So we are so excited for the renewable energy. And then for Indonesia case, I believe that Indonesia is the fourth largest population on earth, right? Number one is China, around 1.3, 1.4 billion populations, the biggest on earth. Number two is India, right? India has around 1.2 billion. Number three is United States, around 400, 350 million population. Number four is Indonesia. Indonesia is the fourth largest population on earth. And then that four is not stopped. Indonesia is number one country on earth that have a lot of archipelago. We have more than 1,000 islands. We are one of the largest, beach condition around the world. We are the largest also for the geothermal, right? So that was a lot of potential of renewable energy in Indonesia. And I do believe that the government is really care and aware about this. And then perhaps very soon, we will have a new strategy to fulfill the demand of the energy in Indonesia. So that was my opinion about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian Nengkoda, for the clear explanation. So as the student, we have to invite the newest renewable energy to fulfill the demand in Indonesia. So now let's move on to the next question from Firman Akbar from University of Indonesia. So the first question is, Corona pandemic really have a strong impact on oil and gas industry. Does this trend have different impact on upstream and downstream oil, and what are your views on this? And the second question is, how does oil and gas industry cope to digitalization and technology advancement in Industry 4.0? And the last question is there any estimation for how long does it take for oil and gas industry around the world to recover from this condition?
Thank you so much. Man, you are very smart. So I'm very proud of all of you. I am very proud. So the question is very good, basically. Let me answer it one by one, okay? Number one, is there any impact of this COVID pandemic to the upstream oil and gas business, right? So the answer is yes. Three things. One is, the capital expenditure and then operation expenditure, the project, the drilling activities is become slowed down. Because why? Because it's not only because of the COVID pandemic, right? Because the oil price is declined sharply. Number two is because the people is not there. The people is tend to be at home, making a physical distance. And then we are aware about that. We respect the health, safety, environment is our first priority. So our people is our first priority because there is no mobility, no activities. Of course, the drilling slow down, the seismic slow down, the exploration slow down, and then the operation slow down. Some of them is need to be cut, but we are really care that, especially I work in Saudi Arabia. We are a very important part within the puzzle of the energy supply. So we are working very hard, to meet, the energy demand. So yes, there is an impact. There is a capital expenditure. There is an OPEX expenditure slowdown of the project. Number two, unfortunately, because of this slowdown of economy, there is no jobs, right? So jobs been cut it. Some of the employee been laid off. So a lot of things going on, which is, yeah, it's not a perfect situation, of course. But again, no organization, no company would like to bankrupt, right? So they try their best to maintain their expenditure. They would like to make sure that their organization is as health as possible. Their financial also as health as possible. So sometimes we have seen that job been cut and then employee been lost, lay off, and then there is no job demand so far. But again, I believe that the situation will be back normal very soon. Why? Because the demand itself is depend on the industry, depend on the people. So I do believe that the situation is not easy. And then one of the good impact, of course, it's not everything as a negative, but there is another positive things. So we also going to be more and more, to apply IR 4.0, the digitalization, remote working style, the technology which is supporting that environment, and so on and so on. So basically, there is a positive things that we are moving to more digital side. And then we believe that it's proven already that the digital part or technology can help our operation more efficient, more meeting the capital expenditure and operation expenditure more efficient in many things. So there is a positive part where we can see that the IR 4.0 will help our business life cycle or business model become more easier. And then the third answer for the questions, basically how long I predict the situation will back to normal. It's quite very tough. So some of the analysts, based on the data, IHS, Wood Mackenzie, Bank of America, Citibank, and so on, a lot of analysts predict that the situation will be longer. That because of the recovery is depend on the people, is depend on the available vaccine, right? So people will be more confident, people will be more easy to work, to get an access to their economy, where the industry can start their business again if the vaccine is available. So the vaccine, as you already heard in the newspaper, that most likely will be available in the end of the year. Oxford University in UK, Russia, United States, China, they are really advanced. They're doing currently the very extensive research on the vaccine. So I do believe maybe around 2021, the vaccine will be available for us. And then from that moment, maybe mid or end of 2021, everything will be back to normal again, where we will see more activities within the oil and gas project. So that was my view about this. And then we really need to be ready, right? We need to be positive. We need to prepare ourselves to be ready to cope the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian and Koda, for your explanation. So now let's move on to the next question from Mufti Harits Nasution from University of Indonesia. He would like to specifically ask on Indonesian oil industry. Privatization issue on our local oil company has mixed views. How do you respond to such issue? And given that even our neighboring country, like Malaysia, has their own oil company privatized. Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. Is very deep question actually. If the way I see Indonesia is at the moment, Indonesia has did their best to attract the investor, right? So many oil and gas company are operate in Indonesia right now. Some of them is under the the production sharing contract or the new contract, and then we also have a state oil company which is Pertamina. So at the moment, the Pertamina play a very important roles. Compared with our neighbor, they also have their a private state oil company. What's the difference is because sometimes these oil state company are being dominated by the government or country interests. So the politic things is sometimes making the movement of this state oil company become very slow. But I do believe that the future is bright. It's not easy, okay? It's not easy, but the way I see is Pertamina have been led by a lot of professional and expert in their field, and then I do hope that Pertamina will play more and more roles in a upstream exploration and production, the EOR technology. Very soon, Rokan, right? Field from Chevron will be hand over to Pertamina, for example, next year. So I see that the role of Pertamina will be very important in the near future. It's not only upstream, but also securing the downstream. The refinery plan will be demanding and very crucial for Indonesia. And it's not only that, but also transporting, supplying this fuel also very important. So privatization is not the only solution. I believe is not the one and only solution. The most important thing for Indonesia is energy mix. How, for example, Indonesia can secure the dependency of 800,000 or 900,000 barrel per day import, right? Which is huge amount of the import, which is need to fulfill the demand. So energy mix, the renewable, the palm oil, filling the gaps between the import and supply is very important. So I believe that privatization may be important somehow to make a diversification, to make a competition, to maintain the competitiveness of the organizations. Yes, I do believe. But in another side, giving a fair opportunity for other investor also very important. So to do that, of course, law enforcement is very important. That's number one. Number two is leadership, right? So how to attract investor to come to the country is far important. The bureaucracy need to be reduced. Leadership need to be strong. The package, the fiscal package to attract also far than important. So I do believe it's quite very challenging, 1 to 5 years ahead for Indonesia. But I'm very confident that Indonesia has built their fiscal package attractive enough for the investor to come. And then I do believe that Indonesia has the energy mix roadmap, and everyone, and including me, everyone, all of us is very excited to really see how Indonesia can cope the demand very soon. That was my best answer. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, sir. So now we are going to move on to the next question from Winona from NTU. When data analytics in the oil and gas industry are enhanced, it will decrease the discrepancy in information. For example, in prices, supply demand between countries, rights, and etc. How will it impact positive and negative sides the industry in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, very good questions. Basically, the data analytics has a side view, right? Like a coin. There's a positive and there is negative impact, right? So the most important thing on the data analytics is three things. One, we need to get a reliable source of the data, right? So we need to have the reliable, because the bias, the negative impact of the wrong data will lead to the wrong decision making. So it's very important for us before we conduct or before we deploy the data analytics. Basically, we try to make the process of the decision making become more lean, more efficient. So the availability of the data, the QA/QC, the trust, the confidence level on the data is very important. Number two, which is quite very important on the data analytics, is the process, the methodology. How we can, setting up the methodology to make sure that the processing, the algorithm is really valid and can bring to the proper, best, wise decision making. So the process, the methodology is very important. Number three is the benchmarking. So I set up the data, I squeeze, I screen, the data, which one is outlier. Then I conduct a processing algorithm to produce the decision-making process. But in the end of the day, we need to benchmark, the result to the common, sense, which is, of course, we still require human interference. We still require human expertise or opinion on that, matters. So that's why I do believe that the data analytical, technology or approach will be demanding in our oil and gas, which is happen right now, which is quite demanding. There's a lot of progress. There's a lot of trial on this data analytics, and it's been proven helping the decision-making process. But in the same time, we still need the expertise of human, and at some time there is a political interference from the owner of the project, from the stakeholder itself. Because in the end of the day, we cannot trust everything from the machine. We need to have a system to assess, to rethink, to evaluate whether the decision making is right or not. And in the end of the day, we need to make sure that the happiness of the stakeholder or shareholder can be met. So I think that was my view on the pro and cons on the data analytics. Very good questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So now let's move on to the next question from Izzatur Rahman from University of Indonesia. He would like to ask some question that he found that oil can be produced using waste plastic by using pyrolysis method, where the oil properties is quite similar with diesel, kerosene, and other else. And there are several industries, if it's not mistaken, is using this kind of technology in industrial scale. From your knowledge, what is your perspective about this pyrolysis method for turning plastic waste into oil? And can pyrolysis method replace the traditional way to achieve oil? Thank you.
Yeah, very, very good questions. By the way, I like this. So this is a value chain improvement that I'm talking about, which is I presented, a couple of minutes ago. So basically, we agree that, reducing, reusing, or recycling, the product is very important. And then the pyrolysis that which is, being used to change, the plastic to become crude oil or oil, diesel oil, which is might be similar with the product of the crude oil, quite very interesting. The reason we need to see this as an opportunity is because of two things: whether the availability of the plastic itself is huge enough, is economic enough to be used by the pyrolysis techniques to produce crude oil or to produce a diesel fuel oil that will be benefit for the economy or people. Number two is we need to see the balance of the energy. Does the process of the pyrolysis itself really energy extensive, right? So maybe it's more expensive compared with the why I need to use this pyrolysis, because maybe the common, oil or fuel oil or diesel oil in the market is already adequate enough. So we need to think pragmatically. But I like the idea. I respect the idea where using, reusing, recycling the plastic to become, energy, fuel. It is benefiting, which is the idea is so great. But again, as an engineer, we need to think pragmatically. We need to think about the economics. We need to think about the environmental impact. We need to think about the energy, balance. Maybe it's negative energy, right? Maybe it's benefit positive energy. So that's the three reasons that we need to always think. And then the pyrolysis, a solution is one of a kind, and then it's really awesome. But again, we need to see wisely in terms of the economic, the availability, the social, environmental impact, and also in terms of the energy balance. That was my best questions and answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your explanation, Mr. Ardian. So now let's move on to the next question. The question is from Safira from Chemical Engineering, University of Indonesia. The question is, how's petroleum industry adapt with this pandemic on digitalization era? And are there any part of digitalization for this situation? Thank you.
Yeah, digitalization has become something like a catalyst, transformations. The old, in the old days, oil and gas industry is really, heavy in capital expenditure, is really heavy in the innovations. And then with this pandemic, where people try to make a physical distance, where people work from home, where people, limited their activities within the industry itself, and they make some distance by the behalf of the health, safety, environment, which is very important. And then digitalization become more enhanced, the promotion, the application itself has become enhanced. So that was the things where we will be there. We are there already, and then it will make the transformation of this digitalization become quicker than ever before, because the people need it, right? So I do believe then and I can see very clear nowadays that digitalization become promoted very well, become implemented across the industry from corner to the other corner. There is a lot of joint industrial project between operating company and service company, and then nowadays that all of these ecosystem, they work together to bring digitalization technology to make easy oil and gas field development project more easier, more accurate, more efficient, and so on and so forth. So it's there, and then that's what the future all about. And then I do believe that this pandemic making also a positive impact in terms of the cultural, in terms of the organization culture, where everybody and then the leadership itself is change the mode of operation from the unconventional in the past, conventional in the past, to be more digitalization. So the future is there, and then we are looking forward for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian and Koda, for your explanation. So now let's move on to the next question from Michael Chang Kurniawan from University of Indonesia. Regarding to the political connections between the US and China is becoming worse because of the relations of their presidents. As China is the largest consumer of oil products, how will this impact the demand prices of oil for the future? Thank you.
Yeah, very good, Michael Chang. I like your comment. So basically, China is the biggest oil consumer so far. And then, as I shared to you earlier, that the oil and gas industry is very heavy with the geopolitics, right? And then nowadays, of course, we respect where there is a ongoing, election in presidential of United States. And then when United States new president at that time, back to 3-4 years ago, his vision is, to bring back the greats of America, in his policy. So therefore, we have seen more and more heavy intense between the China and United States. And then, of course, the way I see, and of course you can see also very clear that the tension is become worse and worse. But I do believe that there'll be solutions, right? Because
Berdua lah.
this country is not only
Matanya berdua. Aduh.
between a United States and also China itself. There is a lot of country which is we hope to have a peaceful environment across the world. So therefore, I do believe that even though we have seen more and more tension between China and US, but we believe that every country has a peaceful agenda. So what is the future all about? I do believe that the economy is very important, on top of the politics. I do believe that people, a social world and environment is on top of the politics, right? So people in the country need to work together to enhance the peaceful environment. And then whether it will be more worse and worse, of course, it can become a negative and positive impact, right? So negative impact maybe if there is some higher escalation, war or whatsoever, of course, we don't like it. But if the thing is become worse, the oil price has become increased. Typically the geopolitics, regardless situation, can make the oil price is increased. So that was the nightmare where we didn't want to see. And then what we really hope that the economy, the peaceful, the agreement, within US and China will be there very soon. And that every country already realized that, to have a peaceful environment is a basic needs for every country to be, to grow. So I do believe that, United Nations also play a lot of important roles. And then each country also play an important role. So I don't see that, the situation will become worse very soon. There will be some new, hub or new relationship between United States and China. And then, of course, there is some tensions of the geopolitics across Hong Kong and so on. But we need to be positive. We hope that, the situation will not getting worse. And then, so yeah, that's what everybody hoped, right? So we really hope that the peaceful mind, peaceful environment will be there very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Dr. Ardian. And now let's move on to the question from Nicholas Barnas from University of Indonesia. You want to ask about the actualization of CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies. Can CCUS solve the problem of greenhouse gas problem from oil and gas production? And would you update us on this technological development as an effort of oil and gas majors to contribute to the Paris Agreement goal? Thank you.
Yeah, very good questions. Our oil and gas industry is really aware. We're aware about the carbon capture and storage of CO2. The reason is because the CO2, the methane, and so on is one of the a substance which is impacting the climate change. The issue about the climate change is everybody agenda, right? So we try to decrease, we try to manage, we try to meet the zero footprint impact because of our operation. Therefore, the carbon capture storage is one of the solution. It's not the one and only. Reducing flare, reducing the methane leakage, using the low pressure, gas leakage for more benefit, operation is our paradigm. So carbon capture storage is one of the technology that have been proven to help us. It's not only that, but also improving the CO2 EOR, enhanced oil recovery injection, and so on and so on. So we're really aware about this technology. And then we've been, involved. There's a lot of, pilot projects so far for this carbon capture storage, for CO2 storage, and so on and so on. So, but again, the challenge is not only, in terms of the business model, CO2 carbon capture basically is not only meeting the safe operations, safe storage and so on, but also economics. So the costs of the CCS are in the range of the 50 to 60 barrel oil price. So it's quite expensive. It's quite technology focused. In terms of the technology itself, in the long run, it will be benefit for oil and gas industry. So your concern is very valid. One of the activities that oil and gas industry are focused nowadays is improving the carbon footprint, reducing the carbon footprint. CCS or CCU is one of the best idea to reduce the environmental impact or climate change impact from the oil and gas industry and operation. So the technology is there, and then the way I see, based on this pandemic, the awareness of the people, the awareness of the industry about the conducting more and more environmental friendly, respecting the Paris Agreement about the environment is become increased and increase, as we can see from BP, Total, Equinor, Shell. So a lot of industry are really following up the agreement on the environmental at Paris. And then of course some of the oil company, they meet a lot of challenge in terms of the economics, in terms of the technology availability, but it's not harm as a bottleneck, as a handicap, limiting the awareness of the oil and gas industry to this more environmental friendly type technology. So yeah, it will become a trending again, this CCS or CCU technology. But of course the challenge will be how to economically introducing the process, introducing the technology. That was the main homework from our oil and gas industry. And then it's not only that, but how to accelerate this technology to be more benefiting process, like CO2, EOR, enhanced oil recovery, and so on. So I think the two agendas so far of the CCS is selecting efficient process. Number two is the economic, the economic decision and benefit. Number three is to secure the profitable business model of the carbon capture. So that was the three objective that we are really focusing right now. So thank you so much for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Ardian, for your answer. So now we are going to move on to our final question from Raihan from Universitas of Indonesia, who would like to ask, is there any strategy or plan that might be applied by the oil and gas companies in the order to make the price of oil or even the supply and demand keep stable in the future, remembering the uncertainty we currently face for years ahead? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rehan. This is very good questions. I do hope this is not the last question, but we have a limited time. So basically, you are right. Is there any future activities how the oil and gas supplier, the company, the country can meet a win-win solution with the demand? So basically, the most important thing is we need to really think loudly. First, oil and gas is a renewable source, right? So it is not a renewable source. Someday it will be depleted, right? So it depends on the agreement where the oil and gas producing company or producing country respecting the future, respecting also fulfilling the energy demand. So number two is very important that because of this situations where oil and gas is not renewable supply, fuel sources, carbon-based sources, we need to respect the sustainability, right? Therefore, meeting the agreement between the supply and the demand is very important. Improving the value chain of the product also very important. Therefore, the supply demand itself has a lot of many factors, right? And then the geopolitics itself, no one can guarantee. Therefore, to predict precisely, what will happen is very difficult. And then it's very important that both parties, supply and demand, to meet regularly, to meet somehow that the product always meet the benefit of the people, always meet the benefit of the country. And then bear in mind, it's not easy at all, because how many countries producing oil? So many, right? So it's more than 20. So therefore, it's very good to have, a OPEC, to have a very good, condition where OPEC and non-OPEC, they are sitting together, right? They try to understand the demand. They try to satisfy the demand. And bear in mind, the oil and gas is not talking about the commodity. This is the energy source. This is the energy. This is a product that can improve the people world, the people quality life. Life quality also depend on the oil and gas product, right? So this is the things where I do agree that a supply and the demand, the oil producing country and then the oil producing, oil importing country need to sit together. But it's a market, it's market is sometimes it's free market or determined market. It's quite very challenging to be determined. So I do believe the win-win solution should be there. The new business model should be there. That's why we can sustain perhaps in the future, the satisfaction between the supplier and the buyer, or supplier and also the importer. So it's not an easy stuff, but perhaps that a supplier, the oil producing country can always meet the demand, and then perhaps that the oil and gas industry can sustain the demand of the energy, within the world. And then perhaps that we are moving to have a better operation, more efficient, more safety, health, environmental friendly. And then this is our homework together, right? It's not only about me, it's not only about the SP, but for all of us to make sure that we have an affordable sources of energy, and to make sure that this fuel carbon-based economy can be benefit for everyone. So thank you so much. That was my best answer. Thank you.
Thank you for your final answer, Dr. Ardian Nengkoda. And at last, it looks like we've covered all of our questions. And thank you for all participants that have great enthusiasm for asking our speaker. Once again, we would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Ardian Nengkoda, who has shared his time and also knowledge for the audiences. Hopefully, the information that we have shared today will be useful for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we come to the end of our webinar. And now we want to take picture together. Please kindly turn on your camera right now. Please kindly turn on the camera for the participants. All right. Because there are lots of participants in today's webinar, we have to take some photos. And please say SPE before we take the picture together. 1, 2, 3. Say SPE.
SPE.
Now let's move on to the next photo session. 1, 2, 3. Say SPE.
SPE.
So at last, we are going to take one more photo. 1, 2, 3. Say SPE.
SPE.
Okay, thank you for all participants for today's webinar. On behalf of SPE UISC 2020, we thank you all for your time and participation of this event, and we hope to see you in the next event. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. All the best, SPE, University of Indonesia.
Thank you.
Be
Okay,
safe
thank
and be
you.
healthy as always. Thank you.